Her tears were silent, but her heart screamed. Ilara sank to the cold floor of her tiny apartment, clutching the letter he had sent, the one that reminded her of everything she'd lost, everything he had taken from her. Every cruel word, every betrayal, every moment she had begged him for love, now echoed through her chest like a relentless drum. She had believed in him. She had loved him with a depth she thought would protect her from the world. And yet he had shattered her. Completely. A sudden knock at the door jolted her, making her heart lurch into her throat. Who could possibly come now? Nobody cared for her. Nobody saw the bruises no one else could touch. And yet, outside that door, destiny was waiting. A black envelope slid under her feet, elegant, unmarked except for a single name. Duke Ashford. Her breath caught. She had heard the rumors, the wealth, the power, the untouchable aura that surrounded him. And now, he was calling her. Could a man like that possibly care for someone like her? Or was this just another trap in a life already full of them? Thank you for sticking around with me, my wonderful story family. If you're already hooked in for today's story and ready to enjoy it, click subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow I will be giving you another story just as interesting as this one, and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. The rain fell in relentless sheets, hammering against the thin walls of her apartment, but Alara barely noticed. She sat on the cold floor, knees drawn to her chest, clutching the torn envelope in her hands. Every word inside was a dagger, cruel, precise, designed to make her feel small, worthless, and broken. He had promised her love once, whispered sweet lies that had lulled her into believing in a future together. Now those promises were nothing more than ash in her mouth, the taste bitter and permanent. Her reflection in the cracked mirror caught her eye and she flinched. The woman staring back had eyes too tired to shine, lips too stiff to smile, and a soul bruised deeper than any visible wound. How had she let herself fall so completely for someone who would use her heart as a weapon? A sudden knock at the door made her jump, heart hammering as though it wanted to escape her chest. Who would come now? Nobody cared. Nobody had cared for months. And yet, outside that door, destiny was waiting. A black envelope slid under the door. Elegant, heavy, unmarked, except for a single name scrawled in gold. Duke Ashford. Her breath caught. The Duke. She had heard the whispers in the city streets, the stories of his wealth, his influence, his untouchable power. To him, nothing was impossible. And now, he was calling her. Could someone like him possibly care for a broken woman like her? Or was this just another trap in a life already full of them? Ilara's fingers trembled as she picked up the envelope. Inside was a single card. Meet me at Ashford Hall. Your life is about to change. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Could fate really intervene this time, or would it break her once again? She hesitated. One choice, one step, one decision that could shatter her fragile heart or rebuild it. The rain fell in relentless sheets, hammering against the thin walls of her apartment, but Alara barely noticed. She sat on the cold floor, knees drawn to her chest, clutching the torn envelope in her hands. Every word inside was a dagger, cruel, precise, designed to make her feel small, worthless, and broken. He had promised her love once, whispered sweet lies that had lulled her into believing in a future together. Now those promises were nothing more than ash in her mouth, the taste bitter and permanent. Her reflection in the cracked mirror caught her eye and she flinched. The woman staring back had eyes too tired to shine, lips too stiff to smile, and a soul bruised deeper than any visible wound. How had she let herself fall so completely for someone who would use her heart as a weapon? A sudden knock at the door made her jump, heart hammering as though it wanted to escape her chest. Who would come now? Nobody cared. Nobody had cared for months. And yet, outside that door, destiny was waiting. A black envelope slid under the door, elegant, heavy, unmarked, except for a single name scrawled in gold. Duke Ashford. Her breath caught. The Duke. She had heard the whispers in the city streets, the stories of his wealth, his influence, his untouchable power. To him, nothing was impossible. And now, he was calling her. Could someone like him possibly care for a broken woman like her? Or was this just another trap in a life already full of them? Ilara's fingers trembled as she picked up the envelope. Inside was a single card. Meet me at Ashford Hall. Your life is about to change. The words blurred as tears filled her eyes. Could fate really intervene this time? Or would it break her once again? She hesitated. One choice, one step, one decision that could shatter her fragile heart or rebuild it. The next morning, the sun rose slowly, too slowly for Ilara's restless mind. She had barely slept. The black envelope lay on her bedside table like a silent question she couldn't yet answer. Her fingers hovered above it again, tracing the gold lettering. Duke Ashford. The name alone carried weight, power, mystery, influence. But Ilara, she felt like nothing, nothing but a woman piecing herself back together after being shattered over and over again. She dragged herself from bed, forcing the trembling in her legs to still. The small apartment felt colder today, as if her past heartbreak clung to the walls. She moved through the tiny kitchen, preparing a cup of tea she barely tasted. Every sip brought back memories she wished she could drown. Her ex, Damien. She hated that speaking his name, even in her mind, still hurt. He had arrived in her life like a hero and left like a storm, destroying everything she had believed about love. The emotional bruises he left were deeper than anything she could hide. He didn't hit her. Some people believed that meant it wasn't real abuse, but he had slowly, painfully dismantled her confidence. You're lucky I even want you. No one else will ever put up with your weakness. If you leave, don't come crawling back when you realize you're nothing. She didn't realize how much those words had become her truth until she finally escaped. She set the cup down, her hands shaking. Why would a duke, summon someone like her? Ilara didn't have status. She didn't have money. She didn't have beauty that turned heads or a voice that commanded attention. She only had pain and the tiny sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, life wasn't finished with her yet. A soft knock snapped her out of her daze. Her younger sister, Sophie, peeked through the door with wide, sleepy eyes. Ilara, you're awake early. Are you okay? Sophie was only 16, but she carried a strength Ilara envied. Her bright smile and boundless hope were the only reason Ilara hadn't fallen completely apart. I'm fine, Ilara lied. Just thinking. Sophie stepped in fully, noticing the black envelope immediately. Her eyes widened. Is that the same one you got last night? Ilara nodded. What does it say? That I should meet him at Ashford Hall. Sophie gasped. The Duke? The richest man in West Haven? Ilara, that's scary, Ilara whispered. Terrifying. No, that's incredible. Sophie grabbed her hands. He's known for helping people, isn't he? Funding hospitals, shelters. Why not you? Because I'm nothing special. Sophie frowned. Ilara, you survived someone who tried to break you. That makes you stronger than you think. Ilara swallowed hard. Her sister's words were warm, but warmth could still melt her into tears she wasn't ready to shed. Sophie squeezed her fingers. You deserve something good. Maybe this is it. But Ilara wasn't certain, because for every whisper of hope in her chest, there was Damien's voice buried deeper. You'll never be enough for anyone better than me. Yet fate had sent a black envelope, and fate didn't make mistakes. Ilara exhaled shakily. I'll go, she said softly. I need to know why he called me. Sophie beamed with pride and hugged her tight, too tight, but Ilara closed her eyes and allowed it. That warmth, that love, that safety. She had missed it. In that moment, she realized she wasn't entirely alone. She had someone who believed in her, and maybe now the Duke would too. Reflection CTA. Have you ever felt torn between fear and hope, wanting to move forward but afraid to be hurt again? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might comfort someone else. The ballroom felt too bright, too loud, too full of memories she never asked for. Evelyn kept her eyes on the polished marble floor as chatter rose around her. Whispers, giggles, the rustle of gowns. She wished she could disappear into the walls of Ravenshire Palace, but fate had other plans, and it wore a midnight black coat and a gaze sharp enough to silence a room. The Duke of Blackthorn entered. Conversation died instantly. Every fan froze midair. Even the orchestra missed a note. Evelyn stiffened. She had only heard stories, stories of power, wealth, brilliance, and a coldness no woman had ever been able to thaw. A man desired by every lady in London, yet committed to none. A man who rarely smiled. A man whose name carried weight like thunder. And he was walking straight toward her, her breath snagged in her throat. Not him. Not again. Why her? She took a small step back. Her heart raced in her chest like a frightened bird, but she forced her expression neutral. She didn't want to look weak, not in front of him, not in front of anyone. Dorian paused in front of her. The room watched them like a play unfolding. Then, in a voice low enough that only she could hear, he said, "Miss Hartwell, are you all right?" She flinched. She hated that she did. "I am perfectly fine, Your Grace." "You are not," he murmured. "You look like someone battling ghosts." Her throat tightened. She tried to speak, but years of being told you're too emotional. "No man will ever want you. You're lucky I tolerate you," still echoed inside her like poison. She lifted her chin. "Your Grace, I assure you." "Do not assure me," he cut in gently but firmly. "Just tell me the truth." Her heart trembled. No one had ever asked for her truth. Not as a person, not as a woman, certainly not as someone who mattered. But before she could answer, a cruel, familiar laugh slithered through the air behind her. Her blood turned to ice. She didn't need to turn around to know who it was. James, her ex. The man who had torn her self-worth apart piece by piece, and the man who now approached with a smugness she knew far too well. "Well, well, well, Evelyn," James drawled, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "I see you found someone to bother tonight. I hope you're not overwhelming His Grace the way you overwhelm me." Whispers exploded around them. Someone gasped. Someone else giggled nervously. Evelyn felt every shred of dignity she had left begin to crumble. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. She hated that he still had this power over her. Before she could step away, James leaned closer, smirking. "She gets emotional, Your Grace. Can't help it. That's why no proper gentleman ever—" He didn't finish, because the Duke finally turned, slowly, deliberately, and the ballroom froze in fear. The Duke of Blackthorn's voice dropped into something dangerous, soft, controlled, and lethal. "Sir," he said, "speak to her like that again, and you will not finish the sentence." Silence. A suffocating, breathtaking silence. James swallowed. "This is none of your concern, Your Grace." "She is under my protection," Dorian replied, "which means she is every bit my concern." Evelyn's breath caught. Protection? Her? Why? He didn't even know her. Yet he stood in front of her like a shield forged from steel. Then he held out his hand to her, not demanding, not commanding, just offering. "Walk with me, Miss Hartwell." A simple request, but the most powerful one she had heard in years. Her fingers trembled as she looked at his hand. Was she allowed to take it? Was she allowed to want to? She hesitated. But then James scoffed behind her, and that tiny sound pushed her forward. She placed her hand in the Duke's, warm, steady, strong, and for the first time in so long, Evelyn felt something she had not felt in years, safe. As he led her out of the circle of stairs, she dared to glance up at him. His expression was unreadable, but his grip was gentle, as though he knew he was holding someone who had been hurt too much. Evelyn swallowed. "Your Grace, why did you step in?" He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something flicker behind his hard facade. something surprisingly soft. Because, he murmured, you look like you've never had someone choose you. Her heart shattered and healed, all at once. The Duke didn't stop walking until they stepped into a quiet balcony draped in moonlight. The music inside continued, muffled and distant, like a world she no longer belonged to. Evelyn released a shaky breath. Her heart was still racing from the confrontation, from James, from the Duke, from everything she had never expected tonight to become. Dorian turned to face her. His tall frame blocked the cold breeze surrounding her with a strange sense of shelter. She tried to speak, but her voice abandoned her. He was the one who finally broke the silence. Who was he? No softness, no circling around the truth. A direct question, because he already knew she'd been wounded. Evelyn looked down at her hands. Her voice was barely a whisper. My former suitor. Dorian's jaw tightened. Former suitor, he repeated as if testing the words, tasting the bitterness in them. And he dares speak to you like that? What precisely did he do to you? Evelyn's breath trembled. She wanted to say nothing. She wanted to pretend it didn't hurt. She wanted to act strong. But the truth hung in her throat like broken glass. He made me feel small, she answered softly. He said my emotions were weak, that my heart was too much, that I should be grateful he even considered me. A tear escaped before she could stop it. She quickly wiped it away, embarrassed. I'm sorry, she murmured. I don't usually. Don't apologize. His voice came out low, almost rough. You're allowed to feel. Whoever told you otherwise is a fool. Evelyn blinked, stunned. No man had ever said those words to her. No man had ever allowed her to cry without calling it dramatic or excessive. But Dorian looked at her like her tears were not shameful, but meaningful. He stepped closer, not enough to touch her, but enough that she felt warmth radiating from him. What else did he do? He asked. She could tell he was trying to keep his voice steady, but there was a simmering anger there, an anger that wasn't directed at her. Evelyn swallowed hard. He blamed me for everything, for his temper, his failures, his embarrassment. If he ignored me, it was my fault. If he shouted, it was because I provoked him. If he lied, he said it was because I wasn't enough. Dorian's fist closed slowly at his side. A dangerous calm settled over him. That was not a suitor, he said. That was a coward. Another tear fell. This time she didn't hide it. How did you end it? He asked quietly. She looked away, ashamed. He did. He said I was too complicated for a man of his standards, and that no nobleman would ever want someone as fragile as me. Dorian exhaled sharply, so sharply she wondered if he was restraining himself from marching back into the ballroom and dealing with James himself. Then he spoke, voice low and steady. There is nothing fragile about a woman who survives being broken. Her breath caught. Her chest tightened painfully, not out of hurt, but out of something foreign, warm and terrifying. Hope. He stepped even closer. Miss Hartwell, he murmured, if he failed to see your worth, that is not a reflection of you. It is a reflection of his blindness. Her lips trembled. You don't even know me. He held her gaze with piercing intensity. Then allow me the privilege. Her heart skipped. Her knees weakened. For a moment she forgot every cruel word that had ever been used against her. But then her old fear slipped back in. Your Grace, people are watching, she whispered. They'll gossip. They'll twist things. They'll say I forced your attention. Let them, he said firmly. I do not chase the approval of the idle and arrogant. Still, I don't want to cause you trouble. You won't, he replied. And even if you did, his voice dropped to a whisper. I would gladly bear it. Her breath caught. She stared at him, stunned. No one, not a single person in her life, had ever said something like that to her. The Duke, noticing her silence, softened his tone. I don't know what he took from you, he said gently, but I know what I see standing before me now. She swallowed. And what do you see? He hesitated for the first time that night. Then he said in a voice that bordered on reverent, a woman who deserves far better than the world has given her. And Evelyn felt something inside her crack open, like a door that had been locked far too long. Behind them, the ballroom doors opened. Footsteps approached. Someone gasped, "Your Grace! Miss Hartwell!" The voice came breathless, urgent. "They're calling for the Duke. It's an emergency." Dorian turned, eyes narrowing. "What kind of emergency?" But before the servant could answer, Evelyn felt a sudden shift, a cold breeze, a sinking dread, as though fate had just taken a dangerous turn. Something was wrong, and whatever it was about to change everything. The servant's voice trembled as he bowed deeply. "Your Grace, you must come. It concerns Blackthorn Manor." Dorian's expression changed, sharply, instantly. His calm exterior cracked just enough for Evelyn to see a flash of fear. Not for himself, but for someone he cared about. Evelyn stepped back, giving him space. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "You should go." But the Duke shook his head. "I'm not leaving you here alone." Those words struck her harder than they should have. No man had ever prioritized her comfort in the middle of a crisis. No man had ever considered her feelings when urgency called. "Your Grace, the carriage is ready," the servant pressed, desperate. It's about your younger sister." Evelyn's breath froze. His sister? He had a sister? Dorian's jaw clenched. "Eleanor?" The servant nodded. "She collapsed. The physician says it may be serious." The air around them shifted. Urgency, fear, responsibility. But beneath all that, Evelyn felt one clear truth. The Duke was not the cold-hearted, unreachable man society whispered about. He was a brother, a protector, someone with heavy burdens of his own. Dorian looked at Evelyn, conflicted in his eyes. "I cannot, in good conscience, leave you here with that man still prowling around." Her heart softened. Even in panic, he thought of her safety. "Your Grace," she said gently, "your sister needs you more than I do. Please, go to her." He hated the idea. She could see it in the tight set of his shoulders. But he finally nodded. "Promise me you'll stay somewhere safe." His voice carried weight, like he would hold himself responsible if anything happened to her. "I will," Evelyn assured him. "And stay away from him," he added. His tone sharpened, protective, possessive in a way that made warmth pool in her chest. "I heard the venom in his voice. He won't hesitate to humiliate you again." She swallowed. "I'll be careful." But he stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Miss Hartwell, if he comes near you, find me. Immediately." Her breath hitched. "How? You'll be miles away." "Then I'll come back." His gaze locked onto hers. "No matter where I am, if you need me, I will return." Her heart broke open at those words. So simple, so strong, so unlike anything she had ever heard. Before she could speak, the servant urged again. "Your Grace, the carriage, please." Dorian exhaled, torn. He reached into his coat and removed something. A small silver pin, shaped like a raven, glinting in the moonlight. He placed it gently in her palm. "Show this to any of my guards if something happens. They will escort you directly to Blackthorn Manor." Her fingers closed around it, trembling. I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything." His eyes softened. "Just stay safe, Evelyn." She gasped quietly. He had never spoken her name before. And the way it sounded in his voice, deep, warm, protective, felt like a quiet promise. Then he did something that shocked her, something that made her heart stumble and the world tilt. He lifted her hand and brushed his lips against her knuckles. Gentle, unhurried, like she was someone precious. Evelyn froze, breathless. The ballroom, the music, the whispers, everything fell away. His lips lingering on her skin felt like a vow, like he was saying without words, "I will never treat you the way he did. I see your worth. You matter." When he finally pulled away, she knew her world would never be the same. Dorian turned to leave, but before he reached the door, he stopped. Evelyn, she lifted her eyes. This isn't the end of tonight for us. His voice dropped to a low promise. Not by far. And then he disappeared into the corridor. Evelyn was left on the balcony, heart racing, fingers curled around the silver pin, unaware that a pair of jealous, furious eyes were watching her from the shadows. James, smirking, plotting, ready to strike the moment the Duke was gone. The moment the Duke vanished down the corridor, the night's warmth left with him. The balcony felt colder, darker, too quiet. Evelyn clutched the silver raven pin in her hand, trying to steady her breath. His touch still lingered on her skin. His words still echoed in her heart. This isn't the end of tonight for us. But as the ballroom doors slowly creaked open behind her, a shiver crawled down her spine. She knew that step, that arrogant posture, that poisonous smile. James. He approached slowly, like a wolf savoring the fear of its prey. Well, well, Evelyn, he drawled, stopping just inches away. Quite an impressive performance you gave tonight. I almost believe the Duke cared for you. Evelyn's throat tightened. Leave me alone, James. Oh? He took another step closer, cornering her against the railing. You think you can speak to me like that now? After everything I tolerated from you? Her hands trembled, not from fear of him, but from the rage of remembering everything she had survived. I owe you nothing, she whispered sharply. His smile faded, instantly replaced by anger. You ungrateful little... He reached for her wrist, but Evelyn jerked back, breath shaking. Don't touch me. His voice dropped into a cold, dangerous tone she knew too well. You think that Duke will keep protecting you? Sweetheart, he's gone, and men like him don't come back for girls like you. The words sliced deeper than she wanted them to. Dorian is not like you, she snapped. The name tasted warm in her mouth, like safety. He doesn't tear people down to feel powerful. James's eyes darkened with fury. So you think you're better now? Think you found someone who wants you? He leaned in close, whispering venom. He'll lose interest in a week. They always do. Evelyn's eyes burned. She'd heard those words too many times. But this time, for the first time, she didn't believe them. I'm done letting you break me, she said, voice trembling but firm. I'm done believing your lies. James scoffed. You? Strong? Don't fool yourself. I'm not fooling myself, she replied, lifting her chin. I'm freeing myself. James stared at her, shocked, outraged, threatened. But then, something shifted. His lips curved into a slow, malicious smirk. You think this is strength? This little rebellion? He leaned closer until she could feel his breath. Strength, Evelyn, is knowing how to ruin someone quietly, permanently. Her stomach dropped. What do you mean? He chuckled, tapping a finger to his temple. You'll see. I've waited a long time to destroy you properly. Evelyn's heart pounded wildly. You won't touch me. The Duke is gone, James snapped. And he won't be back tonight. Her breath caught. The Duke's sister. The emergency. James pulled something from his coat pocket. A folded slip of parchment. What is that? She demanded. Proof, he said darkly. That will make every nobleman in London believe you chased the Duke, manipulated him, and humiliated yourself to earn his attention. Evelyn's blood turned to ice. You couldn't, she whispered. Oh, I can. He waved the paper in front of her. And I will. I already have witnesses ready to swear you begged for his grace's protection, that you clung to him, that you cried for his attention, a pathetic, desperate girl. Stop! Her voice cracked. James smirked at the crack in her strength. Tomorrow morning everyone will know, and by evening, the Duke himself will regret ever speaking to you. Evelyn's hand tightened around the silver pin. Dorian's earlier words echoed, If you need me, I will come back. She wanted to believe it. She wanted to believe she wasn't alone. But tonight, she was. Unless... Footsteps suddenly echoed from the ballroom hallway. Evelyn spun around, heart leaping, hoping, praying that it was Dorian. But it wasn't. It was someone else entirely. A woman, tall, elegant, eyes sharp like winter steel, dressed in royal blue. The room seemed to bow around her presence. She stopped in the doorway, looking between Evelyn and James with a gaze that could slice through bone. "You had better step away from her," she said coolly. James blinked. "Who are you to—" The woman lifted her chin. "I am Lady Helena Blackthorne." Her voice carried like the crack of a whip. "Dorian's aunt." James froze. Evelyn gasped, and Lady Helena took one step forward, eyes blazing. "And I heard everything." For a moment, the world fell silent. Evelyn couldn't breathe. James couldn't move. And Lady Helena, regal, unshakable, terrifying in her calm, stood like a blade forged for justice. She stepped onto the balcony with the grace of someone who owned every inch of the ground she walked on. "I suggest," Helena said slowly, each word dripping with ice, "that you step away from Miss Evelyn. Now." James stiffened, masking his fear with bravado. "This is not your affair, my lady." "Oh, it is," Helena replied smoothly. "Because when a man threatens a woman under my family's protection, it becomes my affair." Evelyn blinked. Family's protection? Her? "You don't understand," James began, but Helena cut him off sharply. "I understand perfectly. I heard you threaten to ruin her name. I heard you admit your spite, and I saw you attempt to grab her." She narrowed her eyes. "If you touch her again, Duke or no Duke, I will see your reputation scorched across London society." James paled. You have no proof?" Helena's smile was frightening. "Oh, darling, I am the proof." James faltered. His arrogance slipped, and beneath it, for the first time, Evelyn saw something else. Fear. Good. Helena stepped closer to him, voice low and lethal. "You will leave this manor immediately, and if you so much as whisper a rumor about this young woman, I will personally ensure that every door in England shuts in your face." James clenched his jaw, eyes darting between them. "This isn't over," he hissed, glaring at Evelyn. Helena lifted her chin. "Oh, on the contrary, it is." With a final venomous look, James stormed past them and disappeared into the ballroom. The moment he vanished, Evelyn's knees nearly buckled. Her breath escaped in a shaky rush. Helena caught her by the shoulders gently. "Easy, my dear." Evelyn swallowed hard. Why did you help me?" Helena studied her for a long moment, long enough for Evelyn to feel exposed in a way that wasn't frightening, but strangely comforting. "Because," Helena said softly, "my nephew is not a man who gives away his family crest lightly." Her eyes flicked to the silver raven pin in Evelyn's hand. "The last woman he trusted with it was my sister, his mother." Evelyn's heart stuttered. "He gave it to me because I was frightened. Because he didn't want me to be alone." "Exactly," Helena replied. "And Dorian does not choose lightly. If he gave that to you, it means something. Something real." Evelyn's eyes burned. But I'm nobody. I'm not like the women he should be around. I'm broken, and I have nothing to offer him." Helena's expression softened, almost painfully so. She reached out and gently lifted Evelyn's chin. "My dear girl, every woman alive has had moments that tried to break her. The difference is whether she stands up again. And you stood tonight. That is worth more than jewels or titles." Evelyn exhaled shakily. She had never heard words like that directed at her. Never heard affirmation that wasn't laced with manipulation or cruelty. Helena continued, voice low. "Dorian saw your strength before you saw it yourself. And that is why he left. Because his sister needed him, not because he wanted to leave you." Evelyn looked down at the crest in her hand. "But what if James still tries something? What if he spreads lies anyway?" Helena's lips curved into a slow, confident smile. "I will handle James. Leave him to me." She then placed a hand on Evelyn's arm. "As for you, I believe my nephew would want you somewhere safer than this balcony. Come with me." "Where?" Evelyn whispered. "To him." Evelyn's breath hitched. "He's back?" Helena smiled with surprising warmth. Not yet, but he will be within the hour. And when he returns, he should not search this manner, wondering if you are frightened or alone. Evelyn's heart fluttered painfully. But does he even care that much? Helena chuckled softly. Oh dear, if you could see the way he looked at you before he left, you would never ask that question again. A soft knock suddenly echoed from the door leading back inside. A guard stepped out, bowing briskly. My lady, Duke Ashford has returned. He's asking for Miss Evelyn. Evelyn froze. Helena gave her arm a gentle squeeze. Come, she said, eyes sparkling. It seems your fate has better timing than you think. Evelyn's pulse thundered in her ears as she followed Helena through the hallways. Breath uneven, hands trembling, heart racing with fear and hope, and something she didn't dare name yet. As they turned the corner, she saw him, Dorian, standing tall, breathing deeply, worry etched across every line of his face. His coat is still damp from the storm outside, eyes scanning the corridor like a man searching for oxygen. The moment he saw her, his entire body went still, like he'd found what he was desperate to find. Evelyn, he breathed. Her name on his lips shattered something inside her. He took a step forward, then another, and the look in his eyes held every answer she had ever been afraid to ask. Dorian closed the distance between them in 3 powerful strides. Evelyn barely had time to breathe before his hands gently cupped her cheeks, as if he needed to feel she was real, as if he feared she might disappear. Are you hurt? He asked softly, voice thick with worry. Evelyn shook her head, overwhelmed by the intensity of his gaze. I'm fine. But Dorian didn't look convinced. His thumb brushed her cheek tenderly. I heard what happened, he murmured. My guards found James leaving the estate in a rage. Helena already informed me of everything he tried to do. Evelyn felt heat rise behind her eyes. I didn't want trouble. I didn't want to cause issues for you. Evelyn, his voice was firm, grounding, and warm. You are not in trouble. You are not a burden, and you will never apologize for someone else's cruelty. Her breath caught. He meant it, every word. Lady Helena stepped forward then, her presence calm and commanding. Dorian, she handled that monster far better than most would have. You should be proud. Evelyn flushed, and Dorian's expression softened even more. I am, he said quietly. More than you know. Helena gave the two of them a knowing look. I believe the rest of this conversation should be private. Before Evelyn could respond, Helena gracefully turned and walked away, leaving them alone in the dimly lit corridor. The silence between them hummed, not awkward, not unsure, but charged, alive. Dorian let out a shaky breath. When I rushed out tonight, all I could think about was whether you'd still be here when I returned. Evelyn blinked. You hurried back. For me? I ran back for you, he said, his voice low and raw. And the entire journey, one thought kept repeating itself. He paused, eyes piercing hers. I was terrified I'd be too late. Her heart twisted painfully. Dorian, she whispered. He reached into his coat and pulled out something small, a folded piece of parchment. James's forged accusation. Dorian held it up. This is what he planned to use against you. Lies, poison, a coward's weapon. He tore it cleanly in half, then again, and again, until the pieces fluttered to the floor like dying ashes. His power over you, he said softly, ends tonight. Evelyn covered her mouth as tears spilled over. No one had ever protected her like this. No one had ever stood for her. I believed her, fought for her. She trembled. Why are you doing all this for me? Dorian stepped closer, his voice a whisper meant only for her. Because from the moment I saw you standing in that ballroom, trying to make yourself small to survive, something inside me refused to let you stay alone. Evelyn swallowed hard. No one has ever said things like that to me. That is because no one has ever seen you, he said gently. But I do. The air shifted, heavy, tender, electric. Evelyn, he murmured, lifting her hand and brushing his lips softly across her knuckles. You deserve safety. You deserve peace. And if you'll allow it, I want to give you both. Her breath trembled. She couldn't look away from him. But what if I'm too broken, she whispered. Then we'll rebuild together. His forehead touched hers. And I'll be honored to be the man who helps you heal. Her knees weakened. Every wall she'd ever built cracked under the warmth of those words. But just as she opened her lips to speak, shouting erupted from the ballroom. Guards ran past them, urgency in their steps. Evelyn stiffened. What's happening now? Dorian instantly shifted from gentle to alert, his protective instincts blazing to life. One guard skidded to a stop. Your Grace, Lady Helena sent us. James, he didn't leave the estate after all. He's broken into the archives. He's destroying documents linked to his debts and crimes. He's armed. Evelyn's heart dropped. James wasn't running. He was retaliating. Dorian cursed under his breath, then turned to Evelyn, gripping her shoulders softly but firmly. Stay with the guards. Don't follow me. Do you understand? Evelyn shook her head, fear gripping her. Dorian, please. He's dangerous. And he hates you because of me. I'm not letting him terrorize you any longer. His eyes burned with a vow. He wants to destroy your reputation. He wants to intimidate you. He wants to break you all over again. I will end this tonight. Then softer. I need you safe. Please, Evelyn. Let me protect you. She hesitated, because the thought of losing him now made her heart seize. But she nodded, and Dorian ran. Guards followed him, swords drawn. Evelyn watched him disappear around the corner, her breath lodged painfully in her chest. A guard stepped beside her. Miss, this way. We'll keep you safe. But Evelyn's gaze remained fixed on the darkness where Dorian had vanished. She clutched the raven crest around her neck. Please, she whispered to the empty hall. Come back to me. Then, a thunderous crash echoed from the archives. Shouts, steel. A roar of anger she recognized all too well. James. Evelyn's knees trembled, and the realization hit her with brutal force. Dorian wasn't facing a disgraced nobleman tonight. He was facing a man with nothing left to lose. The ballroom fell silent the moment Alexander walked in with Alara on his arm. Gasps rippled through the hall like a soft storm. Every noblewoman stared, every gentleman straightened, every whisper rose and fell like waves crashing against marble. Not because of the Duke. He had always commanded a room, but because of her. The woman who once hid in shadows now glowed like she had been born for the light. Her gown was a soft silver blue, shimmering like moonlight on water. Her hair fell in loose curls, her eyes bright, not with fear, not with pain, but with a fragile, blooming hope she no longer tried to hide. Alexander leaned closer, whispering, "Let them stare. Tonight I want the world to know who holds my heart." Her breath caught. Even now, after everything, his words still pierced deep, not with pain, but with healing. But the night wasn't finished with her yet, because across the ballroom, frozen near the entrance, was a face she never wanted to see again. Her ex. The man who had broken her, the man who had taught her to fear love, the man who had taught her to shrink, apologize, and bleed quietly. He stared at her like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Lara? Alexander sensed her stiffness. His hand tightened gently around her waist. You don't have to face anyone alone ever again. But Alara inhaled slowly, steadily, and stepped forward. The hall watched. Not a whisper, not a breath. Ilara, I've been trying to reach you, her ex stammered, eyes darting nervously around the crowd. Things haven't been right without you. I realize now that I made mistakes and... Mistakes? Alara's voice was calm, not bitter, not broken, simply done. You didn't make mistakes. You made choices, choices that tore me apart. He swallowed hard. I can change. Please give me... No. Her voice didn't tremble. It didn't shrink. It carried through the ballroom like a soft, beautiful thunder. I am no longer the woman you hurt, and I will never let you break me again. Her ex paled. He had expected the old Alara, the quiet one, the apologetic one. But she had outgrown the cage he built for her. Alexander stepped beside her, not in front of her, not shielding her, just there, steady and proud. "My Duchess has spoken," he said, his voice low but unmistakably dangerous. "Leave." Her ex turned and fled, swallowed by the doors she once thought would trap her forever. When the music resumed, she let out a trembling breath, exhausted, relieved, free. Alexander turned to her and cupped her face gently. "I am proud of you," he whispered, "more than you will ever know." Her eyes softened. "You helped me find myself again." "No," he corrected softly. "You were always extraordinary. I just made sure you saw it." He drew her into his arms as the orchestra swelled. And in that moment, surrounded by soft lights, warm music, and a world that finally felt safe, Alara realized something. She had not just found love. She had found peace. She had found a man who didn't just adore her. He chose her. Every day, every moment, every heartbeat. As they danced, the crowd parted around them, watching the way the once broken woman now held herself with grace, strength, and joy. And Alexander whispered against her ear, "From the moment you walked into my life, you became my only destiny." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but for the first time, they were tears of healing, of hope, of happiness she never believed she deserved. The man who once shattered her heart was gone. And the man who rebuilt it, piece by precious piece, held her like she was the rarest treasure he had ever known. The world faded, the music softened, and her heart whispered the truth she had been too afraid to say aloud. "I'm finally home." Thank you, my dear viewers, for staying till the end of this story. Your love, your likes, your comments, they mean more than words can ever say. If this story touched your heart even a little, please subscribe, like, and share. Your support is what keeps these stories alive. Please make me reach 1,000 subscribers because it gives me strength to do more. From my heart to yours, thank you for being here.